Hello, and welcome to another meeting of the Tropical Rum Society. As always, I'm Matt, and as I said in the video last week, I'm in Singapore today, in case you couldn't tell from these giant metal trees behind me. Now, we do have a little bit of an interesting role reversal today, because usually I'm asking you what you think the rum's going to be, but today, I'm the one who actually doesn't know what the rum is. I didn't manage to find any bottles while I've been here in Singapore, so we're going to have to do it back in Melbourne. So for me, it's been a fairly short trip to Singapore here, but for you, it's even shorter because the trip ends now. Alright, we're not quite done with the Singapore part of the trip just yet. I did want to show you the Marina Bay Sands, which is where I stayed last night. Absolutely gorgeous hotel. Definitely going to be staying there again. Anyway, you're here for the rum, not for that, so let's take a look. So we're back in the chair, back here in Melbourne, and I went through the duty-free section of the Singapore airport. Managed to find some rum there, so let's take a look at what it was. So we have here the Bacardi Anejo Quattro, which is a lovely little 4-year-old rum that has come from Bacardi, obviously. So that's what we're doing today. That's going to be the answer to that question from just moments ago. Now you and I both know. So let's start taking a look at it. Now, we have looked at Bacardi before in the past, so if you're interested in that, I will drop a few links down in the description. But essentially, they are a very well-known rum brand. I'm sure you've heard of Bacardi. I'm sure you've seen their very famous bat logo before, either from drinking the rum yourselves or some sort of event or something that they're putting on. They're very, very well-established and massive global brand in the rum category. So if you haven't heard of Bacardi before, please let me know in the comments down below. I am genuinely curious how you have managed to avoid it for this long. So, we're not going to go back into the specifics of the Bacardi brand, other than to say that they were originally a Cuban rum, but now they're made in Puerto Rico. And that is where this happens to come from. So in Spanish, cuatro means 4, which makes sense for this bottle because all of the rum inside is aged for at least 4 years. Now on the back it says that it's aged in the Caribbean sun, but I couldn't find specifics of what kind of barrel. If I had to guess, probably some form of oak. I'm guessing probably like an ex-bourbon barrel, something like that. So probably nothing too fancy because this sits in kind of the mid-range of the Bacardi offerings. So it's not entry level, that's more their white and the Carta Oro, but it's definitely not their premium stuff either because they do have the Ocho and the 10-year-old as well. So it's really just sitting somewhere in the middle. Now, interestingly, even though this has been aged for 4 years, it's also charcoal filtered after the aging process. So, as far as I can tell from what I have read online, this color that's inside here has actually come from additives. So they have added in some caramel coloring, and it's not from the actual aging process. But if you happen to know different, and you can correct me on that, then please do in the comments down below. But as far as my understanding, this is colored rather than from the aging process. Now, also should note that this is a blended rum, so even though it says aged 4 years, it's a mix of rum, so there's potentially some older ones in there as well, but it's at least 4 years on all of them. So I think that we should probably crack this open and start having a taste. So just taking a look at this bottle here, definitely gives off kind of like that mid-range vibe. The label is quite nice, but as I crack this open, you can see that's quite a flimsy little lid. Very familiar if you drink a whole bunch of Bacardi Blanca or Carta Oro. It's got that same style of just like a cheap metal lid. Definitely not too premium. I think I probably poured too much into that, but is that anything new? No, I have not learned all year, and I refuse to do so right at the end of the year. Also, 1 litre bottle, because as I said, got it from the Singapore airport, so that is a duty-free 1 litre bottle. But let's get into the actual smell of this. So immediately, that's a very familiar kind of like light Bacardi nose. Like it's definitely got that kind of signature vibe that when you smell it, you just know is Bacardi. Fairly sweet, but definitely quite light. I wouldn't call it floral, but it's definitely not earthy or anything like that. Main thing standing out to me is sweetness and a bit of like spiciness as well. So kind of maybe cloves, something along those lines, but very familiar Bacardi smell. I'm excited for this one actually. I think this is the oldest aged Bacardi that I have had, because usually I don't go with the more premium stuff that's coming in the future. So make sure you subscribe if you're interested in seeing that. But even after a few sniffs, this hasn't given too much of like a different experience. It's been very... What I'm smelling now is what I was smelling when I cracked it open. So there's not too much to delve into here. Sweet and light and a bit spicy. That's really all I have to say on that nose, so I think that means it's time to drink it. Not bad, not bad. It's not giving a huge amount of flavor. Like, it definitely feels really kind of smoothed and mellowed out, but maybe even at the expense of actually having some sort of flavor to it. It does feel a little bit thin, a little bit watery. Let's go in for a second taste here. Swallowed that a little bit weird. Yeah, that's interesting. It's definitely not got much like kick to it, but it doesn't really have too much flavor that's popping out at me either. It's a little bit drier in the taste than it was in the smell. Maybe a little bit more of that spice kind of influence. I'm getting a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of like woodiness, but not a terribly huge amount. Let's go for one more. Yeah, nothing's really jumping out at me here. Not much to go off. Like I said, very smooth, very rounded. Doesn't feel like it has sharp edges to it at all. The finish is quite quick as well. It's basically as soon as it's left my mouth, I forget that it was really even there. So I don't know how I feel about this one. Almost as if it's like a little bit of a letdown, I guess. But at the same time, it's not bad. So I don't really know how to feel. Interesting. So let's get into some overall thoughts on the rum. Firstly, what do I like to start with? Well, I like the look of the bottle. It looks pretty good. I like that it's got an age statement on the bottle as well. That's always something fun to mention when you've got a bottle of rum. The color of it is quite nice, but I'm not sure if we can give that proper like points in this situation because it is potentially that artificial coloring after the fact. So can we count that? Not really, but it still does look good. Some positives from the experience. The nose is great. Nice and sweet, very familiar. Like, it's definitely got that signature Bacardiness to it, which is great. And the taste is quite round. Like, it's very smooth, very easy drinking. It's just that it doesn't have too much like flavor in it. So definitely some positives here, but some of the negatives in terms of packaging and presentation, that flimsy metal cap definitely kind of detracts a little bit from the more premium feel of this. Like, it just, I don't know, it's kind of a juxtaposition between the rest of the bottle and then that cap for me. It's a little bit strange. Taste-wise, a little bit lacking in flavor. So I'm not quite sure what this rum is like meant to be, you know? It's kind of in an awkward middle ground where it's not that entry-level stuff that you're just going to be using to mix, but it's also not the premium stuff that you're actually buying to sip. It's in an awkward, almost like purgatory between the two, where it's trying to be everything, but it's actually managing to be nothing. So yeah, like, I definitely would be happy to share this with friends and be like, here, have some rum, but I would probably give it to some friends that don't know rum. Like, it's definitely something that I think someone could drink quite easily, even when they're not familiar with rum, but I don't think that anyone would kind of sit there and be like, wow, this is life-changing, this is amazing. But maybe that's just because I've had so many different rums. So if you think otherwise, if you've had the Quattro, please let me know what you think and who you would give it to and what you would do with it. But for me, I think this is one that I would try and, share with some friends in a situation that's not like a big event. You know, maybe just like weekend drinks rather than a special occasion. So I think that's going to do it for this meeting on the Bacardi Quattro. I'm going to go get the bottle on the shelf, finish off this glass, and I will see you in the next meeting. Thanks for stopping by.